Hey everybody, how's it going? Nicholas Bayshore, Palin's Esports Community Manager.
I'm Aubrey Morrow, SmiteVOD Community Manager.
And as you might know, earlier this year in May, we worked in tandem with hi-rez here at Skillshot for Spring Fling.
We raised over $100,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and one of our donation goals for this event was getting tattoos for the two of us.
And so now we're going to take you on that journey with us as we head up to Knoxville, Tennessee to get those both fulfilled.
You ready to rock?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So we're here in Knoxville, Tennessee at Ambition Tattoo to go ahead and get these Paladins and Smite tattoos done.
You ready to meet the artist?
I think I am. How's it going, buddy?
Going good, how are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Love the shirt.
Thanks!
Perfectly on brand. It's solid stuff. So I hear you're a big Smite Paladins fan.
Oh yeah.
Been playing for a while.
Oh yeah, quite a while.
Good old beta days.
Yeah, Xbox beta.
Well, you ready to get started with the Capri and Furia tattoos?
Oh yeah, super excited.
All right, let's get on with it.
I first started doing tattooing for a job right at the end of my college career. Originally going to school for biochemical engineering, decided that I hated my entire life doing that. And I quickly changed my degree over to studio arts. I was going to be an art teacher. I was starting to hang out and get tattooed because I have a huge fear of needles. I wanted to try to get past that. So when I started getting tattooed, I was very interested in the tattoo world. One, because it was a fear of mine, and two, because I've been doing art my entire life. And with color blindness, I don't have to trick myself into thinking what I see. It's more knowing what I'm doing. It allows me to rely more highly on color theory and off the things that I know rather than the things that I think. And so with color theory and proper application from my art studies, I can do those things without tricking myself based on what I think I see.
So Capri was one of the first Guardians that I ever picked up and really liked, and he's been my main on the battleground for a really long time. Capri reminds me a lot of Sisyphus. You know, doomed to roll the stone up the hill just to have it roll back down before he reaches the top and he has to start all over. And Sisyphus is one of my favorite old stories. There's this French philosopher, Albert Camus. He wrote a series of essays based in absurdist and existentialist philosophy, and he says that he is most interested in Sisyphus in the moment that he is coming back down that hill. After he's failed to complete his task, has to go all the way back down, knowing the entire time that he's going to restart, that he's never going to make it to the top. He truly believed that if you just understand the futility of a situation that you're in and the pure absurdity of a situation that you're in, then you can find contentment in the absurdity, in the sheer effort, even if the effort is futile. When you imagine Sisyphus, you must imagine Sisyphus happy. And I feel like Capri is a nice little reminder of that, because that's also how it feels to be a support for all of your efforts to be futile and mostly unappreciated. And you know you're going to keep doing it over and over again. But you know if you can find contentment in that, then you're good.
That's all too real.
You're good.
Welcome back to the desk, folks. Great little video there with Offrin and Bayshore. You know, I got to say, the tattoo came out wonderfully. Thanks again to everybody that supported the Make-A-Wish Foundation during our spring fling. 6 digits, man. Shout out to you guys.
That's quite a lot of numbers, so quite a lot of money to be made, but for charity, it's all for a good cause, so really, you guys did a fantastic job with that one.
Yeah, I thought it was an awesome goal. Very, very excellent. But back to the action here. Dignitas versus Mouse is who we're going to be seeing come up next, and this one I've been excited for because I have been a personal fan of both of these teams. I think Dignitas is one of the more exciting teams when they're winning, although that is not always coming through in the clutch. Didn't even make summertime land this time.
No, they did not. They were there for the spring, missed out on the summer. We saw Rival and Energy in their place instead, and with it being limited to just 2 of the top teams from both regions heading in, it makes the competition way more fierce. And Dignitas, they know for a fact that this is the split that really matters above all the rest. It's not saying that spring and summer are irrelevant. It's just that you know the pros always gear up just one extra notch with the Worlds in the title.
Dignitas recently put out some cool media about Trix and his jungler QvoFred. Teammates for life is what they said, and you know the synergy there is undeniable. I love watching these guys play. Zyrhoes has always been one of those guys that you could call one of the better players in the entire world. So there's a lot lining up for Team Dignitas, and they're almost expected to win. On the other side, you've got Mouse, who mousesports are a team who have not been expected to win for a long time, but I think their alternative play style, their dedication to their own identity has always been very important to me as a fan. And as an analyst, it's nice watching their strategy kind of line up with their win column. Taco, they've gotten better and better as time has gone on, and towards the end of that summer split, I think a lot of people were saying, uh-oh, watch out, you might fall into the mouse trap.
Mouse has all the room in the world to keep improving upon themselves, and I think that the big boon to that is just the fact that they can now practice in a play style that I don't think they were able to approach or even meet before because of Jermaine being in that slot instead. It was no secret to anybody, really, and I mean, Jermaine even admitted himself he was a little bit more apathetic towards the scene and competitive and wanted to kind of just focus more on the real world, which, no fault in that, slightest. I mean, sometimes you just fall out of love for something and it was just not his time anymore. But for Spudio to rise up to the occasion and fill in for those shoes, that is no easy task by any means, to jump from playing at a minor league level at best to now in the big boy leagues with these players that Spudio has been watching for years probably progress and just get better and better over time. And now he's the one that has to really meet the challenge.
It's absolutely true. The challenge for Mouse will be Team Dignitas here in our second match of the day. Let's get right into it. P's and B's, pretty please. Mouse will be on the left with the first pick and the first ban. And as I said, this team has an identity. They're well known for playing Cherryo rather tanky in the jungle and then building around that. And I think what has allowed them to sort of come to that next level is one, being able to identify that identity and perform well with it, but also cling to and approach the game with other strategies in mind. It's not their only go any longer, and because of that more open playbook, let's say, I think Mouse has found some success.
I might catch some flack for this, but I really do feel as a Season 5 as a whole has kind of been a bit of the Mouse meta, because there's so much open-endedness with the compositions and the drafts. There's a lot of variety and flexibility you can now introduce that I don't think was feasible in previous seasons. Nowadays, you can legitimately pick just about any god, and as long as they're lined up with the right composition surrounding them, it'll work. And I think that's where players like Cherryo, Dardez, they're going to prosper in these kind of environments. And as you can already tell, Mouse, zero hesitation going straight for the Najah.
Najah is one of the more powerful characters right now, and although I took a nod towards Cherryo's ability to play the Guardian jungles, when it's time to play Assassins, he leans towards Hunbats and Najah. And one of the things you've got to be dealing with in MOBAs is the ability to reflect and play per patch. And Najah, this patch, the last patch, the patch before that, has been on top of the assassin game, so it fits right in there for what Mouse are trying to do. On the other side, Zhong and the Morrigan, two characters that always fit into what Dignitas want to do. Variety many moons ago made a name for himself on the Fat Boy and the Morrigan. There are a couple of players that come to mind when you think the Morrigan, and Zyrhoes is towards the top.
For sure, but I'm mostly looking towards this Morrigan because of the fact that it means Dignitas now have the opportunity to take Najah for themselves, at least for an engagement. And I think that Morrigan and Zhong are two really strong picks that they could have opted for against the Najah, simply because you get a little bit of protections, or I should say a lot of protections out of the Zhong. You want tankier targets that are going to be awkward for Najah to try and engage upon.
But on the other side, Najah does a great job of dealing with Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui's a character that when he ultimates, everybody's got to run away. It's essentially Fear No Evil if you sort of think of it in that direction. But Najah can flicker wisp him in and out. Just go ahead, hit the ultimate as soon as Zhong does, and then
I think that
negated.
used to be an ideal strategy prior to, but the problem is if Cherryo's expending that fire and wheels every single time on the Zhong just to keep him out of the fight, I think that Mouse are going to suffer more so for it, simply because with Morrigan, Ravana, then you have to worry about a Najah on the ground, then you have to worry about a Ravana diving freely into your backline. I think that it's better reserved to just use those on the carries as opposed to trying to target out some of the more... I don't want to say that Zhong ultimate is going to, be useless by any means, but it's just there's more pick your poison kind of situations, and I think in that circumstance I would rather opt for the squishy.
Ram and the Morrigan certainly might be the focuses for the Najah here. Second round of bans. Mouse take care of the on her, which I think is interesting. Arkkyl has been known to play that. And then Dignitas ban out, you ready for this? 2 supports in Sylvanas and Nox. All 4 of those are Dardez bans for sure. And I gotta say, I love the Bacchus. Again, Mouse clinging to this idea of identity. Bacchus a little bit different than what we might see a lot of teams take to the battlefield, but Mouse, they've tried it once or twice before, and his ability to just blow you up before you're able to really react, I think it's going to be a nice move against characters like the Morrigan, who are going to have that impact if they're allowed to cast, but the knock up into some damage, and of course the intoxicate, you just might not be able to.
Well, what I really like about this Mouse composition is that Bacchus, because you have the belly flop, and we just saw how dangerous a knock-up combination into the Najah ultimate could be between Deathwalker Sobek and Ice Ice Baby's Najah. I think that this is a very similar theory craft here out of Mouse, because you're going to have the Bacchus belly flop, and then if somebody chooses to expend their beads, I mean, you're already knocked up in the air. There's nothing you can really do about that to change the situation. But you have to maybe hope that you can time your beats to avoid that landing from the Najah, then pulling into you. It's a pretty nasty crowd control chain that Mouse can string together with the Tusky. Thoth, of course, has so much range to attack you from. I really like this composition out of Mouse. Dig just seems as though they want to clash head-on with damage.
Yeah, I mean, Dignitas have what they really want to bring to the battlefield as far as their personal selections are concerned. Mixer chat, who wins? That's the simple question I ask you, although the answer, I think, is much more nuanced. I said before, Mouse coming in here, they are definitely not the top card. Dignitas probably expected to win this game, but I think this is I think it's much closer than it ever has been in the past.
It's certainly closer than what I think most people would assume it to be, because you look at a team like Dignitas and the veteran leadership status on that team, and I think it's primarily Zyrhoes, if anything. I mean, Zyrhoes is one of the first members that comes to mind anytime Dig is even mentioned, and for good reason. The guy is a phenomenal player, absolutely sick mechanics, and I am really interested to see what he makes happen with this Morrigan.
Dignitas and Mouse making their fall split debut. On the call, John Finch and Anatoly. Ready, set, go.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Taco. Moving into mousesports up against Team Dignitas. And Toli, it sure feels good to be back here in the SPL. Dignitas trying to reestablish themselves as one of those top 2 teams in mousesports, trying to see if they can maintain their surge of late.
I thought that mousesports were going to throw a big curveball to start things off by having Cherryo play the Bacchus and Dardez play the Najah support, but maybe they'll save that for a rainy day. Either way, I think they got what they wanted for it. Cherryo is well known for his Athena, Kabraking, and Najah. Also Hunbats a little bit, so I think that Cherryo is going to be playing in quite a comfort zone.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happening at all. Cherryo plays very well in this Naja, as you said, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him try and pair up with Nika as well and get some pressure on this Zhong early. Take a look at this. Nika going right into that Tier 2 boot start that we've seen a little bit more of. A lot of these solo laners like to try and rush Warrior Tabi now.
For an extra 45 physical power, you can easily back right off the bat. There's no extra health potions. It's only the health chalice off of that. So he's still sitting on 300 gold. After about 2 waves, he'll be able to fully complete that power spike play and then maybe look for an early first blood or maybe even just force Variety to back prematurely.
Arkkyl has to use beads very, very early on in the dual lane to pull it back to the other side of the map as Dardez lands a nice belly flop, but pretty clearly the lane pressure going the way of Team Dignitas, at least on this push. The Ram and Terra had no problem clearing the wave out, even with Dardez leaping in.
That's such a small nuance play that Dignitas didn't need to do, but because there was no death threat immediately. That's not why he used the beads, but all they wanted to do was apply lane pressure. He did not want to be disrupted with any single astral arrow. That allows them to rush their own purple buff a little bit sooner than expected.
They're going to make it right back to lane. Looks like in that dual lane, just going to trade those purple buffs out, so no one really had enough pressure to start an invade. But as you said, that allowed him to hold pace here with Spudio and Dardez and not give up this lane pressure just because it's a Bacchus. But he can be such a bully. He has so much kill potential, especially with an Artemis, that you have to be overly cautious, it feels like, against him.
And that first purification beast, because it wasn't a death threat whatsoever, now Dardez can hop onto Arkkyl whenever he really wants. So Arkkyl going to need to be a lot quicker on the reaction time for the rollout, anticipating when Dardez is going to be making that belly flop, because that setup is plenty of time to allow Spudio to look for the trap right under the feet.
That's exactly what Spudio is going to be looking for. Meanwhile, in solo lane, already backed, has Nika use that teleport and finished off those Warrior Tabi, so he's got plenty more power. That's why he was a little bit behind in XP here for Variety, but now he should have an opportunity to bully for a little while.
And off of that, he actually came back with 1 regular health potion. Surprised that he used a regular health potion instead of the chalice, trying to be a little bit of a lane bully. QvoFred on the Ravana, trying to defend his own back camps against Cherryo. Very frisky. Uses the sash just to disrupt QvoFred from securing the big harpy.
But QvoFred has found the root, overhead kick for some extra damage, and Variety and Zyrhoes are going to get here first. First blood going over to Team Dignitas in their matchup against Mouse, and they're able to slow down the enemy jungle.
Man, not worth it at all. I know those back harpies are worth a lot and they respawn every 60 seconds, but giving up your life before level 5,
nice flop.
Not the play for Cherryo. And first blood now goes to Zyrhoes, that's playing one of his more preferred Morrigans.
Yeah, Morrigan is a pick that he really likes to play. Zyrhoes is just one of those mid laners that always seems to be on his game. You really don't want to give him an early lead like this. Level 5 now, gonna have access to that changeling, which could sway here if they want to try and do something aggressive with it right away or not, as it looks like we have a brief pause coming out here from Spudio, but totally already a little bit of an overstep from Cherryo.
Definitely. I like the idea and the mindset behind using the sash to prevent QvoFred from getting that last hit, but man, you gotta always have these little things in the back of your mind. Where's the solo laner?
Right.
Where's Zyrhoes? On top of that, the rotation from Variety and Zyrhoes instantly collapsed onto Cherryo. It just took too long for that play to unravel, to get out safely.
I think that's exactly what it was, right? It just took too long. And Dignitas, as they often are, were very quick to communicate that. They responded as fast as you like and got there, and there was really no chance for Cherryo to try and reset on the back end of that play. Now Cherryo has to try and reset mentally, I feel like, totally. And even though he took that spill, try and make sure he stays relevant, because Naja can be such a big impact.
And I agree with you. Naja needs to stay, on the same pacing as the enemy jungler, but definitely not behind, because then you got to be building more utility-centric, more defense, more movement speed with the winged blade potentially. And sure, a lot of Naja players will actually prefer that route anyway, but when you're against a heavy burst composition as Dignitas and you feed the first blood to Zyrhoes on the Morrigan, now he's going to be applying this pressure onto BigManTingz. He could be transforming into whoever he likes and maybe even ganking one of these side lanes.
Now Zyrhoes is back out on the map with that full Shoes the Magi done. A little bit extra power and pen to help him out over Tingz, who wasn't able to get those boots completed too. So it's just these small kind of effects, and the timing might not even work up for anything to come from it, but those are the kind of things you have to consider when you end up looking for those early invades. That now Zyrhoes has a slight advantage here in the mid lane if they were to have a fight.
Cherryo, I think he's just baiting out this back. He wants to look for a highlight play in the mid lane. No, just actually considering the back potentially could finish off those tier 3 boots. Does hit level 5, relatively the same pacing. with QvoFred despite taking that early tumble. Only about 2 experience per minute separate these two.
That's pretty good that he's still able to like maintain that relevance from Cherryo here so far, and he really can be the engine, I feel like, for this mousesports team in so many cases. It really felt like with the addition of Spudio, Dardez has been able to play a lot more freely, and similarly for Cherryo. So as long as he can maintain that relevance, I feel like mousesports certainly still has a chance, even up against a team as good as Dig.
I think it's because he was able to solo those back camps after, or like right before he died.
Right, he still got it, yeah.
Where QvoFred didn't get that opportunity, and Zyrhoes getting the kill actually separates himself in the experience per minute category against BigManTingz. That's playing his Thoth. Also now finished off those Mad Guy boots, so at least he'll have the same mobility.
That's right, he should be able to keep up along with Zyrhoes now. It looks like the wave just being frozen here. Trixtank is lurking in the jungle, perhaps trying to see if Spudio will step too far to line. We have a bit of an XP disparity here in duo lane as well, 6-4 in Arkkyl's favor. That could make things a little bit harder now for Dardez and Spudio if they want to try and step up to the lane if Arkkyl continues to freeze.
Trixtank trying to do what he can, but unfortunately mispositioned his collapsing walls as Dardez is able to get the own purple buff, and that's a big deal, the difference between these two hunters. It's a race to that mid game. Both Artemis and Rama have crazy good attack speed steroids, but they're going to be maxing out their lane clear first. So you're not going to be seeing those steroids up until about level 12 or so.
I know this just looks like Santa Claus, like kind of we're running around in a circle here, but they're trying to keep the wave down at their end, I feel like, to try and make it so that Team Dignitas have to come further up to get that farm and making it safe for Spudio to farm.
Dardez was trying to do his best Billy Bob Thornton impersonation in Bad Santa, but no, holding that experience is the correct way to go, where Spudio is a little bit behind the experience gap of Arkkyl. This is the best way to catch up safely without overextending.
Cherryo drops the sash onto Qvo, but overhead kick remains a strong ability, Toli, and QvoFred faces no further problems as a result of that. In fact, Cherryo is the one who appears to have lost some HP, and Qvo could just go on his merry way.
And Cherryo opting for the Talaria boots, trying to get off more mobility instead of for the pure damage aspect behind his ring bounces or the windfire wheels. I don't necessarily mind this play if you're trying to, you know, get more farm from point A to point B around the jungle and then look for the counter engage, because sometimes that secondary step in a team fight is superior to the first part where everyone's cooldowns are already unavailable.
And it already feels like Naja is able to move around the jungle faster than you anyway, because he is. You know, he has movement speed there in his kit too to help him out. So going this route with the boots exacerbates that. It makes it even worse, and it can feel so difficult trying to keep up with Naja and his pathing. But up to this point, QvoFred's done an excellent job of that. It looks like he's working more into the pen tree of this. We saw, I think it was Adapting in the first game that just who was playing Robin, who bought everything from the pin tree, or whoever it was that was playing Robin, and it looks like that's going to be the same idea here from Qvo.
It's not a bad idea, honestly. You get the Crusher for that old Season 4 Bluestone Pendant damage over time ticks, but hold that thought. Dardez is looking for a play onto Arkkyl, but smelling it out, something's a little fishy. I believe Dardez was spotted out by that ward right above the purple buff. Great recognition from Team Dignitas. Really understanding where the ganks from mousesports could be coming from, and they're covering that option.
Yeah, they don't have a ton of wards down there too, so it's just important they're in the right spot as Dardez does get rooted. He has Cherryo and Tingz, though, right around the corner in support, so Dignitas can't commit. Oracles will be going the way of Dignitas, actually. A great confirm. And mousesports will have to fall back.
Trixtank holding down the trigger finger right at the correct moment in time. That's difficult to do against Cherryo with the ring bounces, and you can really tell how veteran some of these players are, both of these supports, because originally Dardez, after getting rooted, no panic whatsoever, no concern, didn't belly flop, didn't use his belch, just holding that on, recognizing that the next little objective that these teams were going to battle for were the Oracles.
Still, aside from that first spill that we saw Cherryo take, there hasn't been a ton of action, and that was really Cherryo, the one who was aggressing, looking for the enemy camps, and unfortunately got punished for it. Up until now, though, we haven't really seen Dignitas kind of make any moves. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that happens around Morrigan. Totally. I mean, do you have any idea of who Zyrhoes might be wanting to try and transform into first? Do they want another tanky Zhong, or do they want a Naja of their own? I mean, what might they be looking for?
It just depends on what you're maxing out first. Knowing Morrigan's, you're normally maxing out the second ability first. You want to get that lane clear pressure. So honestly, you could go Bacchus, get a stronger belly flap and the Intoxicate. That's plenty of magical burst damage to be, and also By using the Chug, you're going to be tankier, so you're going to be pretty healthy coming back into the Morrigan form.
Yeah, I don't think having like, a little bit more initiation with a nice healthy side of damage could hurt Dignitas by any means. So I'm very curious about where we're going to be seeing Zyrhoes go here first, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they end up having like a 2v2 or 2v3 type fight, if they even go with Cherryo just to try and get that confirmed damage, bring them down for the setup as well. So they've got some options here to Dignitas, and I feel like a lot of it could potentially be facilitated around Zyrhoes.
Could also be on top of like Variety's character. 2 Zhong Quiz, double the ghosts,
Gross.
double the fun. That could be interesting. Double knockup from Dardez.
Into the intoxicating BigManTingz is right there with the final judgment. Zyrhoes will transform defensively into the Robin. Mystic Rush up and right back down, but Dardez is there with the belch. QvoFred though finds Cherryo and gets yet another kill.
And the snipes coming through. Arkkyl needs to land a third one. Great jump from Dardez to be able to disengage. Zyrhoes thanking his lucky stars getting away from that one. But the separation from mousesports, they were more concerned about trying to find the kill onto Zyrhoes instead of peeling QvoFred away from Cherryo. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. At the end of the day, I respect the fact that they were still trying to go for Zyrhoes, trying to prevent any sort of momentum. And speaking of momentum, trying to get more of it by going for the mask tree.
That is going to be the call here. I'm very interested in where they're going to be going with that one. We'll see in just a moment. We see a lot of them stop at the tier 2 and just try and go for, just some of those free stats that you can get, so we'll follow along with it. But it does not bode well for Mouse that they can start that fight off with a 2-man belly flop and intoxicate, and Final Judgment was there to follow up, and they still can't win.
The problem was BigManTingz didn't fully charge the Final Judgments. It could have been more impactful, but that's a perfect setup that you have no time to wait any second longer or any millisecond longer. So I don't blame BigManTingz for being a little bit too early on pulling that trigger, but you're correct, Finch. I think mousesports had the perfect initiation that they really wanted to, and still Dignitas coming out on top just shows how experienced that they are, and just abusing this Ravana flexibility of coming in and out of the action so effortlessly.
Yeah, and I think you kind of highlighted it well there when you talk about how he wasn't able to charge it. That's one of those plays, and Bacchus can kind of be that way where, because it's so small an area for the belly flop, sometimes when it lines up, you just got to take the shot, and you can't always say, hey, have the Final Judgment ready, so it can be tough sometimes to make sure you're 100% following up, but mousesports got to make sure they clean up just a little bit if they want to be able to take down a team like Dig.
Haven't really talked too much about the solo laners, both of these two players, just more content about farming it out, not really too interested about making these rotations quite yet. But once Variety finishes off this Void Stone, getting that magical penetration aura to help out Zyrhoes, we definitely could see those rotations happening sooner rather than later.
Nice win for Arkkyl over here in duo lane as Boar is forced out from Spudio, and it felt a little bit defensive. Arkkyl didn't have to use the ultimate or the bead, so he might have a small advantage if he can force another trade soon, or just have some time where he can try and force Spudio back and be the one with the lane pressure. I'm
a little surprised that Spudio was so quick to use that ultimate. It's not as if Arkkyl dashed in aggressively or somebody was around a corner, so you need that CC immunity.
You wish he had it now.
And yeah, I bet you Spudio wishes he had the boar at that point. And that's why he didn't use the beats. He knew that even if he beats, he was still dead to rights. Save the cooldown for a rainy day.
And that's what Dignitas does so well, isn't it? I mean, you would hope that, any team would be able to communicate that well, but almost immediately, once that ultimate was taken, QvoFred was there to follow up as Cherryo does force the beads out from Arkkyl.
Could easily look for that opportunity, but doesn't have Blink, so has to cut the distance in some other manner. Dignitas doing a good job controlling the vision with these sentry wards on the top left mid-harpy, on the bottom left mid-harpy. I think it's only a matter of time before they start forcing out some gold furies.
A little bit surprised. Again, we haven't really seen, aside from this gank, I feel like, from QvoFred over here in dual lane, Dignitas hasn't really been the ones that have been forcing any issues so far.
You're so right.
They've been counter-initiating twice so far in this game, and then that one play in dual lane where they were the aggressor. So up to this point, they've really been kind of playing chill.
Some say that a great defense is better than, superb offense, and that's what Dignitas is doing. They're allowing mousesports to move forward, and then they're just kind of sweeping the leg, using mousesports' own weight and momentum against them to a point. Think of the first death, right? The back right mid harpies, and then all of a sudden Spudio got a little bit too ambitious on the left side, wasting his ultimate, and then yet again another engagement that was almost perfect from mousesports, minus the channeled BigManTingz ultimate. And at the end of the day, Dignitas with a 3-kill advantage. Not the most gold lead in the world, only about 2,000, but this can easily stretch further if they could find one more additional pick, have Variety start making these rotations, and look for the Gold Fury.
Well, at least Cherryo is there now trying to get some kind of vision control because they recognize just how important this Gold Fury will end up being, and they will have the oracles there, that vision that can't be contested here at this point. But since we are seeing it built here by Zyrhoes, totally, I bet we should talk a little bit more about the mask. You know, it's like this sort of new item path they've added in, but we might not have a chance to talk about it. Cherryo wants Arkkyl over here in duo.
And Spudio setting up the trap. So as soon as Arkkyl lands, he's going to need to use the Jaegers to buy some more time. He doesn't have his dash, but QvoFred looking for the cleanup.
Variety is teleported into this one as well, so this fight could drag on as Zyrhoes removes Spudio. Cherryo now stuck in a 1v4, and not much he can hope to do. The root lands from max range, Mystic Rush over the top, but good PL coming out from Dardez to keep Cherryo alive. Variety, though, not going to be deterred.
Definitely not. Great use of the slow, a 2-for-1 at the end of the day. Hunter for Hunter, but you also get a jungler, 2-for-1 on your money. Gold Fury is available, but in a 4-on-3 without your level 14 Ram that has Nika for the attack speed, a little too risky. It's going to take longer than you would hope to do the objective.
That's too bad, too, because Dignitas now won't really be able to capitalize off of those picks they got in the jungle. Nika with great recognition to come at least defend their camp. That looked like what the consolation prize is going to be for Dignitas to try and do some invades. They won't even get that. We are seeing some rotation over here, though, towards the solo side. Maybe a look towards Pyro, but they're not fully grouped up.
No, definitely not. mousesports finally on the board after the beads that was forced by Arkkyl, afraid of the windfire wheels around that purple buff. The timer was instantly recognized that mousesports abused. Took a little bit longer to find the kill simply because once Arkkyl goes up into the sky, you got about a 3-4 second window to just allow your teammates to make their rotation. Variety, even using that teleport to get to the left side of the map was so crucial.
And that was great recognition, I feel like, from Variety. As soon as that fight broke out, you know, to use that teleport to come into the action. And I think that you are right. If they could have had Arkkyl and maybe they lost to one or the other person, that rotation really makes me think they wanted that objective on the back end of that fight. And unfortunately, they just weren't. They didn't have their key piece, I feel like, to make sure they could get it. And the fight wasn't won in a big enough way.
Something that Nika is doing in his build that I thoroughly enjoy is this mystical mail pickup against a Morrigan player. Any sort of damage output will reveal her upon the stealth, and that's going to be a great way to prevent Zyrhoes from getting into the backline with all this mobility, going for the Bombas mask, even trying to get, I believe it's 35% additional movement speed once it is at the tier 3 marker.
Not just Nika, whose build path that I'm a big fan of here, but I also like what we're seeing here from Cherryo with that Shield of Regrowth. Already has movement speed as a clear priority for him, but anytime, you know, he pops that 2, he's going to be just that much faster, whether it's for the disengage or to help him try and chase down an opponent as well. So far, Cherryo's done a good job in the build, but 1-3-0 hasn't gotten a chance to do much.
A little bit too ambitious at times, forced to use the sash offensively to get that immunity frames. Uses the ultimate defensively, but up in the sky is Arkkyl and QvoFred with the cleanup.
Yeah, apparently he had his mop out because he was ready for the cleanup. That was crazy from QvoFred. The immediate blink on the back of Windfire Wheels. Now Zero goes forward, finds Dardez for the stun walls there as well. A nice easy kill for the mid lane mage. Dignitas bringing down the hammer.
Man, Zyrhoes is never afraid to get into the thick of things with this Morrigan play. You could really tell how comfortable he is with that. Variety actually blinks past the stun. Are you kidding me? BigManTingz couldn't make it happen there.
Yeah, this is tough now for mousesports. This Gold Fury will almost certainly be going over to Team Dignitas. It's the confidence plays that I'm seeing from them that's starting to become a problem as Dignitas have found a rhythm. Zero's moving aggressively in to find a kill. We just saw just now where Variety blinked past to find one as well. That's what's going to start posing some problems for Mouse.
Man, I still got to go back to that play because not only did he blink past the play, but he first applied the card and then instantly blinked because it takes about a second to get the first initial tick damage. So you're still technically not in combat. You only applied a little bit of a debuff. And as a result, whether or not the stun was happening, the blink from Variety was certainly going to go through. And that's why he used that ultimate, trying to get off any sort of damage. Great min-maxing by Variety.
And to talk about how well Zyrhoes been playing there as well. He's got that Spirit Desolation. He did stop at the tier 2 there on the mask as well, so he's just getting the power, you know, the movement speed from it without having to worry so much about those drawback effects you can get once you make it all the way up to the tier 3 as well. So Zyrhoes has been a little bit accelerated, now level 16, 2 levels over Tinks.
And the negative aspect behind the Bumba's Mask is not too bad. You're dealing 10% less damage, you're receiving 10% extra damage, but you're gaining about 30 to 35% extra movement speed. And as a Morrigan player that's trying to engage with the stealth, that extra movement speed will not go unnoticed. mousesports will be in quite a troubled state if Zyrhoes can keep getting those stuns, because look what happened to Dardez. Off of one stun that engaged from Zyrhoes, instantly followed up with Trixtank, and then the rest of the burst damage to take out the Bacchus.
And it was very clean from them. Zyrhoes was clearly calling out the whole time, I'm going to be able to grab this stun, I'm going to need the follow-up, and they were able to land it. As Cherryo does get controlled, but Trixtank a bit alone for now. QvoFred and Zyrhoes now have joined in to try and look for this successful buff in vain, but they won't find any more picks or action on the back.
But they're going to be zoning away Spudio from picking up the red buff, so BigManTingz forced to pick it up in the meantime. This level 17 Artemis is getting closer and closer to that end game form, and that's a little surprising with currently having 2 deaths.
And this can happen, I feel like, sometimes, right? Oh, hold that thought. BigManTingz is in a whole lot of trouble. Variety loops in underneath. Zyrhoes and Trixtank were there. Unfortunately, had to use the purification beads, but BigManTingz makes it out.
Cherryo trying to defend this tier 1 mid tower. It seems that Dignitas are very patient. Like, this is almost patience to a fault. Like, I understand, like, the first 10 to 12 minutes where you don't want to force any engagements, but that tier 1 tower was pretty much free. Knowing that BigManTingz was forced to back, what kind of realistic defense does mousesports have?
No, they definitely could have grabbed that tower, and I agree. This whole game has felt like, even though Dignitas have been playing very well, it has felt as though they've kind of been making sure that they didn't make any mistakes. They've been playing a little bit more measuredly, a little bit more reserved. And that fight around the goal fair, that's why I liked it so much, is when they sort of stepped forward into that bravado we know from Dig, and they're like, I know what plays I can make here, and they hit their shots. So hopefully we'll see them pull out a little bit more of that.
You know what it could be? It could be a baiting technique where it's like they want more mousesports members around that tier 1 mid tower so they can really win that team fight and start winning the game.
Yeah, we were only going to get a tier 1. We want a tier 1, a couple picks,
and
you
then
know,
some.
Right? Yeah, we want a free set of golf clubs. We want to take everything back home with us. At least Dignitas do.
Or maybe they're gonna look for a team fight once the Gold Fury is starting to near the respawn point, and then if whether or not they find any picks against mousesports, if they can just shove mousesports back all the way to the tier 2 mid tower, the amount of burst damage Dignitas has with just Arkkyl alone should be quick enough to sneak that one away.
Arkkyl should be more than capable. You highlighted already, these two hunters both have potent attack speed steroids. Trixtank, again, doing a good job locking down Cherryo, but this is more just zoning to create a room for QvoFred to come strip away this red buff. There wasn't really a follow-up attempt there in mid, but it still feels a little small, doesn't it? Like a couple buff steals here and there, maybe a pick. At 22 minutes in, Dignitas are up about 5,000 gold, 9,000 almost experience. They could force more.
It's adding up. As a result of the stripping of the red buff, now BigManTingz is going to be dealing less damage. It doesn't matter if Dignitas actually pick it up. The fact that they denied it against BigManTingz is a huge win. Variety looking for the angle there, going to avoid the stun. And that's a great initiation tool that Dignitas can easily rely on as Variety's blink.
Variety's been doing a good job of it here so far in this game. As we said, both solo laners kind of had an easy time in lane. It wasn't a ton of ganking over there or really like too much bullying going on. So now they're both here in their full effect, but it's kind of felt like Variety has been able to be a little bit more of a bully. Again, Mouse haven't been able to get much going because it's not Nika's fault, I wouldn't say, but Variety's definitely had some room in these team fights.
And against the Zhong Queen, normally you want to be able to try to shut down the Zhong Queen to prevent these rotations from being a little bit too fruitful. But as a result of Cherryo's early spill, that kind of hurts Nika in the process, because when you're playing a Chulainn, you want to be aggressive. That's the whole nature of his kit. So look for easy poke damage. Your resource is not mana, it's your rage. So you have an infinite supply of it as long as you're constantly using your abilities effectively or those basic attacks.
And if you're able to keep it built up, you can indeed be that bully. But like you said, he doesn't have Cherryo there to support him. Maybe he can't go quite as aggressive as he would like. So we didn't really get to see that there from Nika. And Variety kind of gets it feels like a free pass to this now, to this beginning of the late game, tail end of the mid game sort of Zhong, which is really where you want him. As Cherryo looks for the sash on top of Qvo, who overhead kicks away.
Just able to get away from that one. Gold Fury has respawned. mousesports, though, have kind of the pressure because it's Dignitas constantly backing up despite them having the experience and the goalie. But I don't think Dignitas are going to give this up anytime soon. This is when they're going to be forcing some issues.
It looks like they're ready to get this one started. Gold Fury has been pulled to about half HP. They've got Trixtank, Zyrhoes, and Variety here on zoning duty. Nika brought to half HP early on. Dig have already completed the FG, and Changeling has already come out as well. Final Judgment's big. That clips through 2 members, and now Nika can charge forward, taking down Variety early on.
Oh, BigManTingz setting up his team beautifully now with another stun on top of Trixtank. Here comes QvoFred looking for the cleanup. Arkkyl in the sky.
He's put the scope on and he finds the shot. Cherryo is going to be pushing up daisies now. QvoFred trying to get away. Overhead kick was well timed, but the big range from BigManTingz is not enough. But Nika, of course, is there to finish it off. Now he's looking for Trixtank, who's quite low, but unafraid to jump back in. Maybe curious there as Spudio finds a kill.
Arkkyl in a lot of trouble. BigManTingz is there, but a good Aegis to buy himself only a second. Zyrhoes with a cleanup. Unrelenting action. A 4 for 3 at the end of the day, but Dignitas walks away with the second Gold Fury.
Now, I don't know where Nika is, but he's clearly listening to us. We talked about how he hadn't done much here this game. Well, he had a team fight for himself. It was, of course, all set up by the final judgment for BigManTingz, but you have to recognize what your go signs are, and Nika recognized.
He came into that team fight at 0-0-0. Walks away 3-1-1. Successful team fight coming out of Nika. Definitely want to be seeing more of that action. Dardez is set up onto BigManTingz, I believe. He also clipped out Zyrhoes at the beginning of the team fight, and Zyrhoes was transformed into the Ravana. He didn't use the overhead kick. He didn't have the Mystic Rush. Damage mitigation, he actually used that ultimate defensively after getting clipped by it. So I think if Dignitas used the Changeling ultimate a little bit sooner to either QvoFred or Variety and then engage, I don't think they'll be having any issues.
Now, Dignitas did, at the very beginning of that fight, get the Gold Fury. mousesports, if they wanted to contest the objective itself, engaged a little bit too late, but at least able to show now that they can still win these team fights. They're not that far behind. In fact, now grabbing a Pyromancer for themselves, as Dignitas hadn't had a chance to fully regroup yet after that fight around the Gold Fury. That'll close that gap even a little bit more.
Dardez was trying to guess where Zyrhoes was with that belly flop. Heard the stealth, wanted to, and that's the good thing that you got to do sometimes, is just play that guessing game. Use your belch and just quickly turn into 360, because hey, if you accidentally hit the Morrigan, you're going to reveal it.
Well, now mousesports needs to group up, and in a hurry, Fire Giant at half HP. Cherryo is going to be the one that moves in earlier, but Fire Giant has been dropped. Dignitas would rather have the fight instead. Arkkyl taken up into the air on the Windfire wheels, but Variety going to come in and start releasing some demons for everyone to deal with. Up into the sky with the scope is Arkkyl. Spudio's the target, and Variety finishes him off.
BigManTingz with a stun. Variety going to get knocked up. Dardez without an ultimate. Cherryo takes out Arkkyl. Still surviving his Variety, but can't say the same for BigManTingz.
QvoFred was there to put him into the ground. Dardez in some trouble. He's too far forward, and QvoFred finds a double kill. Cherryo has to retreat, but Mystic Rush has other things to say. Could potentially be another double for him, but the root just a little bit off the mark.
Oh, and the slow was just narrowly avoided. Both Cherryo and Nika surviving with a sliver of health. Dignitas only losing Arkkyl, strip away BigManTingz, Dardez, and Spudio, and they should be able to get this Fire Giant cleanly.
This should certainly be theirs, and a much better fight from Dignitas, where they were able to sort of spread the fight out, I think, a little bit better and have it on 2 fronts that favored them. Nika is going to be here to at least cause some complications, but he could end up throwing his life away. Fire Giant's been withheld for now. Instead, they're going to collapse onto the solo laner, and Variety gets the last hit.
No, Cherryo missing the sash as well. Nika giving up his life to at least delay the Fire Giant, but Cherryo cannot easily commit to this. He doesn't have a blink available. Good slow and body blocks from Variety. Fire Giant goes to Dignitas.
And perfectly timed, all 5 members will get to grab it, as well as Arkkyl only just respawned back into the world. So everyone has it. All 5 members dig ready to rock and roll in true fashion. A very clean display, I think, around the FG for this Dignitas team. That Gold Fury fight, maybe they let that one slip, but they fought where it mattered.
definitely making the corrections necessary as the game progresses. You can make all the mistakes you want in the early game, but as long as you tidy up towards the late, that's where it truly matters. And they have the late game potential. I mean, just look at it. Between Zyrhoes, Morrigan, you got variety on the Zhong, which is an absolute monster. And don't forget Arkkyl on the Ram. Going for all this attack speed can't be ignored.
He's out here out-damaging a Zhong and a Morrigan. Neither one of those are particular easy feats, but Arkkyl has been positioning well in these team fights. He's also been the subject, I feel like, of the ire of mousesports, so he's getting to do some nice damage on his way to the afterlife, but still, a great performance from Dig overall. They want this tier 2 tower. They want to group up and start pushing. It's only 3 members here, though, so Mouse still can't make the defense. That tower comes down.
They need to find some sort of split pushing opportunity, but this might be too little too late. Cherryo just now completing the tier 1 tower in the solo lane, trading out 500 gold on the right to losing 1,500 gold in mid, and now potentially 1,500 gold on the left, heavily favoring the black and yellow Chaos squad.
They should be able to grab this. Cherryo is going to try and at least trade out this tier 2 tower, but he has to make a decision because Team Dignitas 5 members strong are ready to start forcing down the Phoenix. Cherryo is going to back and get here just in time for the full 5-on-5.
Variety's Mad Guy's bubble getting popped by Dardez's Belch. Good recognition there, and as a result, Dignitas going to back off. They understand that Cherryo stopped the split push opportunity. Gold Fury has respawned, and why not try to get a little bit closer to that late game, finish off all 6 items, get even closer to the 3k gold potions that is so much better now after the 5.15 changes. An extra 25% structure damage. Yes, please.
And it's persistent right after
Yes.
you die too, so that way it's not such a big investment, then you could lose it easily as well. So you're right, very nice to be able to get those potions in there to help you out as a bit of a late game push to try and help you finish off on those final sieges. But it looks like we got a brief pause here. We should be able to get y'all back into the action momentarily. But what a come-out game here for Dignitas. They look strong here in this game. They've made really good, clean decisions so far. And this is against a Mouse team that is not, there's no slouches. This is not the Mouse from Spring Split. They've looked so much better lately.
I agree. I think BigManTingz out of everyone has kept Mouse relatively not in the game, but still not from losing it instantly. The plays that he's been making with the Thoth have been superb.
He's been able to keep things close. Nika and him paired up in a great way around that Gold Fury during that first fight, but the Fire Giant one, they weren't able to get that one to quite go their way. We were talking a little bit earlier about Zyrhoes' build. Looks like he's gone with the Polynomicon here at this point too. So he's really trying to add a little bit of extra flavor here to this fight. He's been having a game for himself, I feel like, on this Morrigan.
And I thought he was going to go for the Bumma's Mask at first, trying to get that extra movement speed, but going for Rangda's instead.
That's right.
Trying to go for that extra glass cannon style. One final judgment. Could seal his fate, actually.
That could just remove him. Yeah, he doesn't have any health in that build either. But I like this. If what Zyrhoes is trying to do is is catch you off guard to start the fight, then it's going to work every time. Arkkyl finishes him off from the sky. Cherryo already removed. A 5v4 now in Dig's favor.
Seems good, man, honestly. Zyrhoes on the Morrigan. People forget just how powerful he is on this goddess, and I'm not saying you necessarily have to always ban him out, but you have to keep that in the back of your mind, in the back burner. What are you giving up by allowing Zyrhoes to go for the Morrigan?
And I think he might play her mage form better than anyone, right? I mean, everyone, we could discuss about who's, got the biggest god pool, but in their base form, Zyrhoes plays Morrigan at such a high level, and now with the 5v4 for another 26 seconds, they're ready to push.
He's just so opportunistic, knows when to go in and out of the stealth, knowing when to go in his variety with the blink.
He's going to be forcing BigManTingz back, stunned, interrupt the final judgment charge, and already create a ton of space. Nika falls early on to QvoFred, and everyone else is back in the fountain. Mid Phoenix burns out. Now they come over to the left side Phoenix in the 3v5 to try and keep their hopes alive.
They need to do something here because Cherryo and Nika is still dead. Phoenix less than half health. Will finally go down.
No.
Arkkyl with a beautiful Aegis surviving, but Dardez without a belly flop, not going to get chased down.
Cherryo's back in the fray, sashes in onto Arkkyl, who is able to escape. They've already grabbed 2 Phoenixes. That would be enough for most teams, but Dignitas positioning as if they want to try and strip this jungle and fall back. There's still a tier 2 tower they need to get on that solo lane side as well, Toll.
And it's not only that, Fire Giant respawning in less than 35 seconds. They have the prize at the end of the road. Dignitas knows what it takes to win, and they're not going to overstretch their boundaries to do so.
Look how fast Zyrhoes is. That's Cherryo that was chasing him down. I thought there was a chance he might end up catching up to him, but you got a little extra speed when you're inside that clunk form. Got to be careful, though, with Dardez nearby. he can be blown up quickly. mousesports want to try and strip this Pyromancer away after Dignitas had to back from the siege.
mousesports going to secure that one. Zyrhoes definitely wanting to go in there, but no one
Really wanted it.
nearby to assist after the fact. And when you have Rangda's mask, you're very vulnerable if you take any source of damage. So wanting to clean that one up, but Cherryo could be in a lot of trouble here.
In the middle lane, he has that Magai's cloak working for him now, though, to try and make sure he can get away from that initial stun. Not going to be able to catch all the way up with him as quick as he is. You still can't keep up with Cherryo, who has almost every movement speed item under the sun at this point. He's zooming around the map, plus just being Naja.
Zyrhoes had to stop at the light because that trap was not going to be pretty for him, honestly. Dignitas even securing the Fire Giant just for good measure, having to deal with fire minions on the left and middle, doesn't really allow mousesports to leave their base to contest that objective.
At this point, I'm with you. I don't really know if they even want to fight on that Fire Giant. Let that one go and look for the defense on these Phoenixes. Tier 2 tower, again, a foregone conclusion. 33.5 minutes in. Dignitas have one Phoenix between them and the Titan of mousesports to try and win their first game of the fall split. Dardez stunned out early, but Dignitas not ready to push yet.
Doesn't mind that at all whatsoever. Looking for any sort of poke from a distance is going to be Cherryo. Trying to also set up BigManTingz. If Dardez can hit a nutty belly flop the way he did around that left mid Harpy, I think their defense could be successful.
Arkkyl is going to get hit. That was all it took. Final Judgment removes him. Spudio gets the very last shot. And now Dignitas missing a huge weapon in the siege without their hunter. Can mousesports keep up the defense, though, now in this 5v4?
No beads, no Aegis, no life for Arkkyl. Like I said, the setup from Dardez allows BigManTingz a 1251 shot from downtown. No potential for Arkkyl to get out of that one while he's midair.
And that's nice and clutch from BigManTingz there, too, because if he misses that shot, not only is Arkkyl still here, but they're down one of their best tools for the defense, and Dignitas might just win outright. Instead, he's bought his team some more time to farm, bought his team a little more time to try and remain relevant in this matchup, and give Dignitas a run for their money, because we're all level 20s. Even Bacchus is almost there. This is going to normalize soon.
And even stripping away the Fire Giant buff from Arkkyl.
That's right.
So mitigating a lot of that extra structure damage, because that's going to be the enhanced Fire Giant version, 30% extra structure damage to allow Dignitas to close out the game. But when you don't have the Hunter, unless Zyrhoes is going to go into the Ram, there's no realistic approach towards that right side Phoenix. And with Arkkyl coming back now, you need to give him the red buff potentially to close out this game.
Instead, they're just going to fall back here for now. And looks like Dignitas, though, do want to give this one a try again. The mid Phoenix totally is about to respawn. Again, left Phoenix should not be very far behind that, as Dignitas went right from middle to left. So Dignitas should still have a chance, even without the Fire Giant buff on Arkkyl, to get these weakened Phoenixes without too much trouble. But again, if BigManTingz lands another big snipe, then we might be having a different discussion.
I think Variety needs to disrupt BigManTingz the same way he did in that previous engage. Blink at the back line, chase him down to the Titan room, create enough of a buffer zone that BigManTingz can't even look at Arkkyl.
And to be fair, they hadn't even really started their engagement yet. That was a great shot from Tings to catch him out. Aegis forced out early on from Zyrhoes. Cherryo is right there to follow up. This could be enough to remove the mage all by itself. BigManTingz at the final judgment right on the mark.
Is this a comeback that Mouse needs? Variety gets trapped into place, making no use of his ultimate.
Nika doing a good job disruptive underneath Arkkyl, who can't find the shots that they want. But this is attempt number 2 from Dignitas that has been foiled. This time, it's by Dardez finding a great flop, Cherryo following up with his Windfire Wheels, and final judgment to put him down. mousesports aren't letting this go for free.
So Dignitas was so patient the first 25 minutes of this game, and now the last 10 minutes or so, they're a little bit too impatient. They need Variety to be the ones in the front line. There was no business of Zyrhoes playing around that left side Phoenix line. Even if the Phoenix is respawned, is on its last legs, you're a squishy mage with Rangda's mask. You're going to get blown up.
Yeah, at this point, the chances of him kind of looping around for that short-range stun that we saw him doing so much earlier, they are going to get a little bit harder if he can't get kind of lost in the team fight. So he absolutely has to make sure that he's a little bit further back than that. And I love Dardez's not just recognition, but trust that he could jump in for that. Look what he's got, Rod of Tahuti at this point. I mean, Dardez is not, he's definitely swinging to some extent as this Bacchus.
I mean, some historic players of the past are confident enough to run Bacchus jungle. Yeah. There is damage potential there. You chug a little bit, you get extra magical power. Your Intoxicate's dealing extra damage, and just having the passive alone from Dardez, as long as he can get the belly flop onto Zyrhoes that doesn't have Aegis, that belly flop alone might get him close to under 50% health.
And and it's recognition from Dardez that it's not about him being like, I think, this damage sponge at the very front, because he still is somewhat tanky, but not a ton as he would be with some more defensive items. But if that initial flop Intoxicate combo onto the right target hits the right person, he's trying to just make sure that he's either removing them or bringing them low enough for Spudio and BigManTingz to finish him off.
38 minutes into the game, Fire Giant respawning in less than 15 seconds. If Dignitas don't win off of this next push, I honestly think mousesports are going to start making a very impressive comeback. The way BigManTingz has been able to just follow up off of Dardez is their only reason mousesports are still in this game.
Now, mousesports would still have quite a bit of work to do if they wanted to make their own push with all the tier 2 towers and 2 tier 1 still going, but I agree. I think we're getting very, very close to Dignitas no longer being the team with the lead, right? If one more kind of seed attempt fails, then Mouse can kind of stand on even ground with them once they get, a few more of these relics finished off, and Dardez gets that last item.
But Dignitas with a huge gold lead can still easily look for those 3K gold potions.
That's
We're
true.
seeing one with Variety holding on to the 3K power potion. He can easily use that on the next engagement and really look to make Big Man's life even more difficult.
Looks like Mid Phoenix is going to be the call one more time, and they're trying to keep the minions pushed up in duo lane as well. Approaching 39 minutes, it's turned into a slugfest. What felt dominant from Dignitas all game long has started to slow down a bit, and this is important, right? The ability to close these games out when you have the lead and not allow your opponents to kind of claw their way back in. Dignitas got to show here that they can finish it off when they've got the lead.
Zyrhoes trying to kind of look for that approach the same way that he's been doing in the mid game, hovering around the mid lane, and he's allowed to do so with all the sentry vision control, one in between the left and the mid, one even in the mid lane, and look how far back he is, right at the red buff. There's plenty of time to use that movement speed to stealth from that position and look for the primary engage.
And this is better. Trixtank and Variety now are the ones clearly out in front for Team Dignitas, so the chances of Zyrhoes getting punished should be a lot lower. Zyrhoes does come to try and keep the mid lane pushed up, and Cherryo pulls over to recognize that. They're trying to keep the focus of mousesports split. That 1v1 could be important.
And you know what it is? He's also using the Polynomicon to chip away at this Phoenix. One more shot from Zyrhoes on that Phoenix, as long as there's a mini wave there, should seal the fate and can open the door for Dignitas to really all-in commit on the left side. But look at this. The shots onto Zyrhoes. The one hieroglyphic assault, that's the one downfall of Rangda's mask, just how much extra damage you normally take.
But that might be enough by itself, totally. I mean, Zyrhoes is just too low. Monolith is going to be there for some healing. It's not the same as a raw healing, but it's still pretty potent as Cherryo and QvoFred box it out. BigManTingz rotates over again, and this time pokes down Qvo. This Thoth from range is making it really hard for Dig to get in.
Oh, Dardez is extremely low, but he's still holding on. Nika tries to engage in the backline, but he only hits Trixtank and Variety, not the targets you really want to be able to set up for your mid laner.
Those aren't going to work for him, but unfortunately Dardez should be able to head back to base, get healed up one more time. Zyrhoes also appears to be rather potent. Remember, he also has the Fire Giant helping to keep him topped off as well, and he can give this one another go. But Cherryo and Tingz could very well cause some problems. He's got to make sure he's careful with it so he doesn't fall, but Trixtank's ready to go in.
There we go, Variety in the back line looking for BigManTingz, get him out of the team fight. There goes QvoFred taking out Spudio.
Spudio falls very early on. Variety did a good job finding him. Phoenix on the left-hand side comes down as well. Dardez comes looking forward for some kind of stun, but Variety not going to let it happen. Cherryo, the next one up on the chopping block. 5v3 in favor of Dig as they break the base open a mouse one more time. They want the mid-Phoenix as well.
And there's plenty of time to do it. Nika gonna blink in, but he's caught without an ultimate. Trying to make the collapse onto this middle Phoenix is Dignitas. Very low on its last legs, will secure it. But 50 seconds on Cherryo, 40 on Spudio, and the call from Dignitas is not the Titan yet, Finch. It's the right side Phoenix.
They want to do this the right way. They've been patient all game, so why not be patient now, right? Phoenix should be able to come down for them. Arkkyl takes some poke, but Variety suddenly pops in, and BigManTingz is going to be his target. Dardez looks for the belly flop, but not enough for the knock-up as Nika falls to the roving game of Team Dignitas. This should be enough for them to take game on. Only BigManTingz and Dardez to defend, and they can't get it done.
42 minutes of play. Dignitas win this one 20-8. You wouldn't think this game would last that long the way Dignitas was playing in the earlier stages with how patient they were the first 25 minutes of the game. But the one death onto Arkkyl on the right side, Phoenix, the one death onto Zyrhoes on the left side, Phoenix, just slowed them down quite heavily.
Yeah, unfortunately, this one got away from mousesports, and it felt like it got away from them early. But a couple of nice hero plays, right? I mean, BigManTingz, and I'm thinking about Nika around that Gold Fury, they set up a nice play there. The final judgment to get Arkkyl out when they were defending on the Phoenix as well. They did a great job trying to keep that one going.
And I don't know who you would even give the MVP to for Dignitas because I think QvoFred did a fantastic job. I think Trixtank made a lot of setup plays with the stunts as well, being able to really save some members in the backline. So what do you think at home? Mixer chat.
Go ahead and vote for us in the poll. Give us your ideas on it. Variety, I think, could certainly stand out to me as a candidate, right? He had a great play on that Zhong as well. So, I mean, it's definitely hard to say. It was a team effort, it felt like, from Dignitas because of how calculated that they played it out. But Dignitas were eventually able to close it out, but it is maybe a little bit worrisome that it took them 3 tries.
Well, we'll see. It's a best of 3. Anything can happen in game 2.
And do have a little bit more work to get done if they want to take this whole set. We'll get it back over to the desk and have them break it down.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks a lot, Anatoly. Tom and Taco bringing you the business for this one. And I said, you know, Mouse came into the split with an upturn, but seems like a reset button hits as the fall split comes to a beginning. And, well, Dignitas, did Dignitas things.
Dignitas really came out with a fire in this one, and it looked like a promising start initially for Mouse because everything was going rather smoothly, but then the picks just started adding up little by little. Cherryo took a couple of early spills. That kind of set the tone for the rest of the jungle because Qvo was not letting him breathe in that jungle matchup. He was just all over the place, constantly trying to poke and look for any sort of aggression against Cherryo, anything that would keep this Naja from being able to gather the necessary farm to actually make any sort of counter engagement happen.
Yeah, you know, I saw a lot of positive things out of BigManTingz and Dardez, but when QvoFred's going to go 6-1, Zyrhoes going to go 6-1, and Variety's going 5-1, it's a tall mountain to climb. Variety going to be your most valuable player here. The Zhong came through and just absolutely decimated anybody that walked in his way. Tons of damage, just out of control here.
It also just felt like there was a severe lack of damage coming out of mousesports there towards the end. I mean, we even saw Dardez picking up the Rod of Tahuti at one point, I think, and that was just to try and add on a little bit more of that one-shot potential if he were to engage onto somebody like Zyrhoes or even Arkkyl. Probably, ideally, was looking for Zyrhoes in a lot of situations, but Zyrhoes was just so well protected by Variety on this Zhong for the front line, and just in case Mouse managed to get past him, they still had to deal with the rest of the team. Dignitas just did such a great job during those sieges, making sure to stay all grouped up on each other, that Zhong was really able to flourish.